Well, welcome back to another episode of What Are We Going to Do Today? As you can see, we're back on the 1969 Chevelle that I have named Mr.E. Why is his name Mr.E? Well, I'll tell you what that is. Do I need to say it? It's a mystery. Okay. I apologize if I seem a little scattered this morning. I woke up, well, clearly I'm awake, but as I woke up this morning, I tried to say words to my wife, and it came out, I don't know, kind of like, you know. And so basically the first sounds that I woke up to was my wife laughing at me and saying, "What?" So I realized once again, before your first sip of coffee, you just shouldn't be saying things. Keep that safetied, okay? Let's just not say things. So I'm a little bit beyond that now. I can speak. Hopefully you can understand what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is, had a really good meeting with the owner of Mr.E last night, late, and kind of got more of a game plan going. I've got like 2 months to get my part finished on this, which my part is essentially a running car, which includes suspension because none of the suspension is bolted up. It's just all hanging there loosely. And obviously if it's not driving and running, it's really not, my part's not done. So, which includes wiring, because we need wiring to make it run. The dash stuff, hopefully, and all of that. So we're gonna come up with another header solution, probably mid-length or short header. And I may dive into exhaust on this car too. We'll see how time goes. But I've got a lot to do in a short amount of time on this car. And that's not manufactured. That's actually real. It's a real thing. So I may be putting in some late nights. For instance, when Mr. F's body shows up, obviously I need to put him together. So we may just be putting in a few more hours to try to get all of that done. But it's okay. We're gonna have fun, and I'm kind of, you know how you haven't worked on a project for a long time, and then you come back to it, and a long time might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, whatever, but you've had projects in between it. You kind of come back and have to kind of reorient yourself. Well, what was I doing? Why was I doing that? Where was I going? What was the plan? That's what I'm doing this morning. So I've got my lists. I've got my new list, which is things I need. And that's what I am figuring out this morning. I'm gonna start taking some measurements for coilovers. I am going to start tightening things like transmission mount, some of the hardware that's even holding the suspension up isn't the right hardware. So taking it out, putting the right stuff in if I can find it, getting it if I don't have it, adding it to the list if I need it, that kind of thing. My goal now is to get this list so I can get things coming while I'm working. And then we'll get all the suspension, everything under the car tightened up and ready for the half shafts and the coilovers, so that when those come in, we put them in, we're good to go. And then, yeah, the next thing. I don't like to say what I'm going to do next because it's kind of fluid. What do I have available? What am I in the mood for? Not necessarily in that order. So, yeah, we'll just get to it. I've actually, can I show you under the car? You got a minute? Let's walk under the car here and I'll just kind of reorient you with where we're at, what we're doing. And by we, I mean us. Camera guy and sound guy and me. So. All right, let's walk over here real quick. So what we have here, I don't know why I kept that. Okay, what we have here is a C4 inspired rear end. It's not stock, but it has the geometry of a C4 rear end, and a C5 front suspension. So come in here and I'll just kind of show you kind of the things that I'm dealing with. Okay, so on first inspection, we have things like nuts being used as spacers because we have a clearance issue with this control arm. So, or sway bar, whatever you want to call it. They've relocated it to down here. On a factory C4, it would be up here mounted. But you can see I need to create a spacer there. That's not right. Even the mounting bolts for this cross member here that's really supporting all the weight, well, that's not right. You know, the hardware isn't even, the bolt isn't even long enough, and we're not going to be using a lock washer and nut on here. We're going to be using probably a poly lock style on that. So that's just a quick, a quick glance. There's things like this across the whole thing. None of this I can assume for a minute is good and okay, because it's not. Another spacer over here. So my first order of business is to measure for the coilovers. So this bar, I need to lower the car probably on my foam blocks. So this bar is level, and then I'll measure from here to here on both sides. And at the same time, I'll also measure for my half shafts on both sides. That way I can get those coming. I will also measure for my drive shaft, which I already have, which has a slip yoke on it. And I will make sure that I have the right one. So none of this is tight. None of my mounting here is tight. I've tightened up the engine mounts, but I mean, all of this is loose. I also have to measure for these when I have it on the ground, though this is pretty much sitting how it's gonna sit, but I'll put it on the foam blocks and make sure. So all of this is loose, and so I'll once I measure for these, I'll raise it back up, take the wheels and tires off, and just, I'll probably start from the back and work my way to the front and kind of see what we can see. I'm working my way from the back because I have to figure out spacers for this. I have to get those spacers coming so I can finish that up. So, yeah. So I'm not gonna really go beyond that right now in my explanation, because it's going to change anyway. We know that already, because that's what always happens. Seems like I say, and then I'm going to do this, and I don't ever do that next thing. So let's get the underneath of this car safe and tight, and then we're ready. Then we're ready to move on, and we can have confidence that we can drive it. So, all right. That was a long intro, but you know what? It's my shop, so you showed up and you got the long intro. Let's get to work and see what kind of fun we can have with this gorgeous 69 Chevelle today. And let's see how close we can get to finishing this up, or at least my part of it up, in the next 2 months. All right, this is the cue the music. Oh, it was already playing, I guess. All right, make the music louder. To stop for a minute, show you. So I've got, well, a lot of this is apart, but what I wanted to show you is, so I've replaced the hardware up here on both sides already, because if you remember, it was too short. But when I'm going through and either replacing, I'm finding that so many of these are just not right. Like this needs to be shorter. There's just too much bolt there. It's not necessary. Or in this case, there's nothing locking this in place. That could easily loosen and back off, and you don't want that. So I'm, in most cases, removing the hardware and putting in the correct. In some cases, I'm able to just tighten. But what I'm doing is every time I torque something down, I mark it. I just take a paint pen and I put a little slash over the top. And I do that for obvious reasons. There's a lot of bolts and a lot of fasteners on here, and I don't want to wonder if I have done the final torque on it. So I don't know, just something that's helped me. I don't know if it will help you, but it's very frustrating to come back the next day even and start looking at what you've done, and then, oh, did I tighten that? And then you gotta put a wrench on it again, and it takes time, and let's not do things twice. So anyway, that was just really quick, in case you're interested. I am going to just continue on here. I ran to the fastener store, got some more fasteners. I had made a list and gone and come back and done that. So I'm going to just continue on, essentially building the suspension on the car, because whoever installed it just did it for assembly mock-up purposes. It's obvious to me. So I have to do it for real now. So anyway, I'm going to get back to it. Oh, hey. I thought I heard someone come in. That's so silly. Actually, I'm just trying to see what exactly is in this tank. Fuel tank. Obviously, it's fuel tank. Because I want to put it in the car, but I also want to know what I'm working with here, what everything is, you know? And figure out a way, I guess, well, it just bolts up. We know nothing bolts up, just bolts up. But, you know, I'm hopeful. Well, I'll show you. All right, well, before we do that, basically all I'm waiting on under here, we've got all of the end links. I'm waiting on spacers for this sway bar, and once I get those in, I can bolt that up and it'll be good and done and ready. And then I'm waiting on half shafts. Actually, I have the drive shaft, so I may slide that in or not, you know, whatever. But this, of course, this mount was loose. Everything was loose. So the only thing that I've left kind of loose, and I just kind of put a wrench on them lightly, are these adjustment points to where, you know, whoever aligns this is going to have to loosen those up anyway. I just didn't want them aligning themselves, you know. So then moving on to the front here, I put the grease zerks in top and bottom. I've got all of this, you know, the steering, the front sway bar is in and correct. All of these skid plate, I'm calling it a skid plate, whatever, bolts are, you know, to spec. And what I haven't done is tightened up the upper and lower ball joints because I'm waiting on the coilovers. Oh, and I haven't tightened the lower coilover mount. Hardware's in it. I just haven't tightened it because I don't know how much I'm going to have to disassemble to get the coilover in there. And, you know, I've had some experience with this, with tightening things up, and then, especially with ball joints, it's way easier just to leave them loose and be able to pop them out than if you tighten them down and now they're seated in there and it's a pain. So once the coilovers show up, we'll install those and then finish tightening all of that stuff. Same with the rear. So there's not, it won't take long to finish that up once those things arrive, but I have to wait. And so I am working on fuel. It was either that or brakes, and no, fuel. Let's do fuel. I vote fuel. Everyone in favor? Say aye. Okay. 100%. 100%. We're doing fuel. So I'm observing the mounts here. They appear to be threaded, you know, holes. And I'm hoping, haven't tested yet, I'm hoping they coincide with these 3 holes and I can just find the hardware I need and bolt it up. However, before I do that, I wanted to open up the tank, just make sure I have all of the stuff, you know, that it doesn't just look like I have the stuff, but I've got all the stuff I need, what it's doing, why it's doing it, and then I have a better understanding of what I need to do. So, yeah, looks like this is for the vent. This is the fuel, which is a kind of a not a quick connect style, but you know, whatever style, fancy word, mechanic, keyword, style, fitting, that is. Same as on the front, whatever that is. And I've got a pile of parts. Actually, I probably have a pile of parts on that table too. But we've got fuel line and gigawatt stuff. You know, there's just a lot of stuff here. Some fittings. Yeah, this is actually the fitting that will slide onto there. And then my AN will just, you know, Bob's your uncle. And in my case, Bob is really my uncle. Actually, I had 2 Uncle Bobs, and now I have 1 Uncle Bob, but, you know, he's my uncle. So, all right, let's, yeah, I'm gonna just fiddle around with this, figure out what I have. I gotta sort through some stuff, and then mock this tank up just to see if, by chance, it will work, find the hardware I need, and then figure out where I'm gonna run the lines, what I'm gonna do. It's a return system. However, we're gonna just return it back by the tank. Right. That keeps me from having to run 2 lines up to the engine, and it's a system that will work just fine. So you can just follow along and see what happens. It'll be exciting. Okay, cue the music and let's go fast. Well, we may as well talk about what I've been doing here. Well, I'll come over here and look, and I'll kind of show you. So, this, of course, is the fuel filter for that I was mounting up in here. I really struggled with where to mount this, and I ended up using a couple of brackets to do it. I wish I could have mounted this, or at least drilled holes before the body was on the frame, because I would have put it up here, but there's no way for me to reach up here to get anything fastened, so I just used these L brackets, the stainless, and then bolted it to the top of that. So I've got the fuel line running from the engine, and it runs kind of behind the fuel, or behind the rail here and behind here, and then I'll finish fastening it up here to here. However, I guess I shouldn't have just, you know, whoops. problem is that is not a -6 fitting. I just totally escaped me. So I'm gonna have to buy an adapter. Since I already put the end on, I've already got the -6 end on. I guess I might have enough. I could maybe take it off and put a bigger one on here. I probably could, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So I'll probably just replace this -6 with, I don't know if that's a -8. I think that's a -8. And then I'll have to get another -8 fitting for that side. And then it's going to go straight into the tank here, which is a 6 and again. So whatever, it's not a big deal. But once I get those two fittings, I'll be able to, well, I won't be able to put the tank up because I have this breather to put in. I haven't really even looked at yet. And this breather has a bracket. I have to figure out where that's going to go. And I'll figure out what I need to attach it to, well, to that. So I'll see what I have. If I need to order another AN fitting, I will do so. So it's coming along. I think aside from the fittings I don't have, I should be able to get this thing kind of finished pretty quickly. And then we'll have a fuel system. It ended up that after I got to looking at this, you know, I was telling you all about the return system and all of that. Well, this is a returnless style pump. Whoops. It's okay, everything's fine. It's just no damage was done. There you go. A returnless style pump. I should have been able to notice that while I was talking, as there's only one outlet and no returns. But, you know, I was talking, I wasn't paying attention, and, you know, I'm told that sometimes I do that. I just do that. So, it's all good. We figured it out, and it's super simplifying the process. I'm just basically running one line from the engine through the filter to here. I'll run the vent canister somewhere, and we're done, other than wiring it up. So super simple, and that puts me 2 steps closer to the brakes, which are not going to be as simple or fun. Okay, I said it. I don't like bending brake lines and putting them in. It's just not my favorite thing. I've also got to weld tabs for all of the soft lines on all 4 corners for those to attach to. So it'll be a process, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun. You know, there's a lot of worse things I could be doing that I don't like to do even more, like body work. I would rather bend brake lines than do body work. So there, I feel better already. Okay, I'm gonna just keep plugging away here. I just figured, you know, you'd want to kind of see what I was doing. Updates, captain's log, start date. I still don't know what start dates are. Regular date, doesn't matter. I've got the fuel tank in for the second and hopefully final time. So, installed the vent unit. If we get a better view of it, it's kind of dark under here. It comes off the tank right here. It's got a push lock style. Come on, camera guy, work with me here. Hold on, edit forward to where camera guy is doing his job properly. Okay. You can see it's actually not fully seated up here yet. It's supposed to seat up against this rubber thing. You can push these on by hand if you have, say, you know, unlimited lifetime moments. I don't. So I didn't have the tool. They make a tool, but I bought the tool. I'm waiting on the tool because I may as well have the tool. I'm going to be doing this push lock stuff. It's going to come up again. I actually much prefer this style, but this is just what I had. You know, if you remember, what came with the car in bins, it's just lots of stuff. And this is what came with it. That's what I'm working with. So I bought the tool, and when it comes in, I'll finish that up in about 2 seconds. But I like this style better, where you just, you know, push this on first, and then you screw it all together, and it tightens up, and it's just great. But I should have just done that, okay? Full disclosure, I had enough fittings. I had some more of this line. I could have done that. But once I started, I kind of, you know, I just committed myself to a course of action, which made me have to buy a tool, which, you know, isn't always a bad thing. I mean, painful, but, you know, I'll use it again, and then I'll be happy I did. So, way off track. So, yeah, just waiting on my adapter fittings for to attach both ends to the fuel filter. Waiting on the tool for this, and then all the fuel system is done except for wiring, which I'll get to that. The next thing on my list of things to do is the brakes, which, as we've discussed before in not so great detail, I love. Doing brakes is one of my favorite things, and so this is going to be exciting. An exciting next couple of eons of time that are going to happen. So, unfortunately for you, you will see most of it in time-lapse form. You're not going to be able to enjoy every excruciatingly pleasant moment of the process, but I'll bring you in occasionally, as I tend to do, just because I feel like shared experiences are the best, even the bad ones. Okay, well, as they say, all's fair that ends fair. So I'm going to get started on this, and we'll see where it goes. You'll find out. All right, well, let me catch you up. There's really not a lot to catch up on. But this day is kind of, I've had a lot of other things going on. I wanted to make a lot more progress on this car than I did. But some days are like that, and it's not a bad thing. Other things are getting done, but not so good for this episode. You know, I was hoping I could show you the car completely done in this episode, you know. Sure. All right, well, real quick then, we've got the tool came in for this push lock dealy bob thingy. And I've got the fuel lines. I don't know, my camera will go up there. Fuel lines are up here where the fuel filter is. It goes here, you know, as we saw before. And then I just welded on these tabs. They're still wet with paint, of course, for these brake lines to go in, and then my hard lines will go up and over. So what I'm doing now is working on, so this is the, I don't know what you call it, junction block. It's a junction and it's a block, so let's call it that. Where the line from the front comes in, and then the two lines come out either side to either rear wheel. So I have to decide where to mount that because that's going to determine then where I'm routing my lines out to each wheel, where that line runs into this from the front. So I have to locate that, and I'm just trying to figure out how and where to mount it. But we'll see more of that next week. And I still have to weld these on the front as soon as I kind of finish sort of ish on the back. I'll work on where these go, you know? So I'm working on, you know, I've got my line ready, got my flare thing ready for making lines and whatnot and so forth. So yeah, that's what we got. So you can see behind me, there's a new car in the shop. And so next week, you'll find out a little bit more about that, but not this week. Am I getting better at teasers? I mean, you're here, right? You're here, we're hanging out, and why can't you just walk over and look at it? Because that would make sense. But, you know, I don't know why. I'm not the boss of you. You do what you want. So, good luck with that. All right, so I'm gonna kind of piddle a little bit more, but I'm running out of time today for that. So I'm gonna go, you know, I mean, it's basically happy hour. I'm gonna go grab something to drink and sit down and kind of close out this very special time together. So yeah, just help yourself. Oh, got these Cheers. You see that? Cheers floor mat coasters. Yeah, right? The same brother got me those that you know, tries to make himself better by pointing out how old I am. Which is silly because we're only 10 years apart, which I guess is significant if you're 10 or if like you're a newborn. 10 years, that's quite a bit, you know? Even if you're 20 years old, 10 years, you know, a 30-year-old's pretty old. But once you get past 40, you know, 10 years really isn't anything at all. Oh, cheers, by the way. I hope you're able to enjoy your own choice of beverage, whatever that is. I just want you to be happy. I mean, that's not my primary. Really, you're in charge of your own happiness. Might be what I want for you, but I can't control that. So I don't know why you get me off on these tangents. I don't really know how we get here or where we're going when we start on the way. But, you know, I had a good week this week. It's one of those weeks that I didn't get as much accomplished as I wanted because I really think some weeks are about thinking and planning your way forward, which is progress, but you can't see it. You can't point to it. You can't say, hey, look, see, I was obviously thinking really hard right there. Everyone can see it. Now, hopefully you can see when I'm done with the project, a lot of thought went into it, but really hanging out with someone who's thinking is probably not very interesting because only that person knows what's actually going on in their head at any particular time. So, but it was a good week. A lot of progress made in my mind, some progress made on Mr.E. I did adjust the clutch on that 66 Impala and reoriented the shifter linkage. That's why it came in. That was the car I put the clutch in. And it was kind of shifting clunky. So I revisited it and made it right, essentially is what I did. So I didn't do that while you were here because, you know, it was just a couple hours. It was just doing a thing. Not that I wouldn't. I mean, you might have been interested in how I adjusted the clutch and why. So I'll tell you. You asked for it. The clutch travel on that Impala, I'm moving my foot to, you know, in case you thought maybe I was talking about a different pedal. This is the clutch movement. So that's clear. And it's with my left leg too. That's how you knew. If it was my right leg, you'd be like, why is he pressing the clutch with his right leg? That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't even make sense in Europe. Clutch is still on the left. So anyway, there's the rod that comes off the clutch pedal through the firewall to the what they call the Z bar that, you know, pushes the the lever to move the throwout bearing, you know, all that clutchy stuff. That rod is threaded, so what I did is I moved the pivot point on it so that instead of all of the clutch being, it was really kind of at the bottom of the stroke. I didn't feel like I was getting enough pedal. So by moving that, basically I moved it down, which basically was taking out some play in anyway. I should have showed it to you. I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't. So sorry. Anyway, so now the clutch comes out closer to the top. It feels better. It doesn't have the play in it. And the shifter shifts. You know, goes all 4 gears. So I did that on the side. Got this car in the background. Going to do a little work on that. Just, yeah, super, super fun car, and we'll talk about that next week. So I wasn't gonna have this debrief go long, you know, be excess of verbosity. but somehow, you know, I get relaxed for whatever reason that I have no idea. Then I start talking. So, in for a penny, in for a pound. That's what I think Ben Franklin said. It could have been someone else, but I pretty much attribute all sayings like that to Ben Franklin, and nobody questions it. They're like, oh yeah, he totally said that. So if you act like you know what you're talking about, you know, people just assume you do, unless you say something really stupid, but you always take that risk, so. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Again, I say it every time, but I mean it every time. I love having you in the shop with me, seeing the struggles that I go through, seeing the fun that happens, and just all, it's the story. It's just the story of real life. So hopefully you'll come back, and there'll be something else. I guarantee it. I don't guarantee what it is though, because I don't know. I don't know the future. Another thing you may not have known about me, but I don't see what the future is. So anyway, cheers. See you next week.